All right. Well, I'm Veronica Campbell. I started this think tank group eons ago now. It feels like 14, 15 years, something like that, to connect like-minded practitioners. I think most of you have been to think tanks before, but and we have them in person and on Zoom. So we're grateful to have this Zoom opportunity. Our next month is going to be Amy Vanderlinden on pelvic health in person. October, that's you, right, Paris? Yep. So Paris will be doing October. November, we have a speech and language pathologist. I'm not sure what her topic is yet. And then December, probably like a holiday gathering again, to kind of keep it fun and casual. And then next year, there's we have some lined up, but lots of openings if people are interested in presenting. And so the idea is to learn from each other, have authentic, genuine referrals, and create community. So excited to learn. And usually we do some intros. It's really small groups, so we can do something just like I'm Veronica Campbell. I'm a physical therapist and I practice in sort of the Northwest Valley, and my specialty is visceral and neural. So if you want to keep it super short, Paris, do you want to say who you are and I'll just holler your name out?
Yes. Hi, I'm Dr. Paris. I'm a pediatric and perinatal chiropractor. I'm up in Scottsdale area and excited to be here.
Perfect. Okay, Becca, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Becca Meekum. I'm a mental health therapist. I work with teens ages 13 and up, and then adults as well. I work on trauma and attachment and specializing in like complex personalities as well.
Perfect. Keely? Megan, right? Oops, unmute. There
Thanks.
we
It's a
go.
pleasure to be here. It's my first time, I think, maybe
Welcome.
second after Patty. So yeah, I'm a family constellations facilitator in Levine, which is south west end of the valley, and work a lot with trauma and attachment and all that kind of stuff. So really looking forward to tonight's presentation. Thanks.
Perfect. And Brittany, do you want to introduce yourself or stay you unmute and just say something?
Yeah, I'm just driving, but
Oh,
yeah, I'm Brittany. I do massage therapy and all sorts of types of modalities, like from deep tissue and sports injury to craniosacral, visceral and neural manipulation, and lymphatic drainage. My office is in North Scottsdale.
perfect. And then Melchiora, did you want to pop in and say anything? There she is. Hi.
Hi, I'm Melchiora Mandarachina. I'm an osteopath who does osteopathic manipulation as a specialty. I teach full time at AT Still in Alyssa and work in a bunch of areas.
Perfect. And then Ursula, our generous Zoom host.
No problem. Hi, everyone. My name is Ursula. I am a full spectrum doula. I have a doula agency servicing the Phoenix area as well as a team in DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia.
And then our wonderful presenter tonight. I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. My name is Lorenzo Azzi. I'm a clinical psychologist. I specialize in infant and early childhood mental health. So before I get started, there's just a few things I want to get out of the way. I mentioned this to a couple of people that jumped on early. I've done a decent amount of teaching and training in my time. Never have I done it virtually. This is my first time, so please bear with me. I am hopeful that at least some of my jokes actually translate to a virtual platform, although we'll have to see how that works. Um, I let's see, what did I want to say? If people have questions, I'm super informal. If you have questions about what I'm talking about or you need clarification on something specific, please just unmute yourself and jump in and ask the question. You don't need to, put your question in the chat or raise your hand or wait till the end. If you have a question that's a little bit more loosely related, that makes sense to hold off on and you want to put in the chat or wait till the end, I will do my best to try to leave some time at the end for questions. But if you have a question or clarification on something I'm saying, please don't wait. Just unmute yourself and jump right in. Um, All right, let's see. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. So at this point, what I would do if I was doing a live in-person presentation is ask for a show of hands, how many people have ever heard of the area of research and practice called infant mental health? So Ursula, I saw, okay, I see a little bit, maybe, maybe not. I had never heard of infant mental health until I found myself buried in it. And then it became the rest of my life essentially because it became so incredibly clear to me that as a mental health practitioner, the impact that I can make working with this population would have just by far the greatest impact that I could working with any other population. So it made no sense to me to do anything else really. So we'll talk a little bit about what infant mental health is. We'll talk a little bit about attachment today, and then we'll talk about what I am trying to do for folks. So let's get started. Well, that didn't work. See, I'm already having tech problems. Let's see here. Why did
Use the buttons on the screen.
Oh, now I don't. Here we
There
go.
they are.
Got it. There we go. All right. Um, so in 2000, a 22-person committee was formed, an interdisciplinary committee was formed um, to really synthesize the growing body of research across neuroscience and developmental psychology. And one of their primary conclusions, so they developed a 600-page piece of work called From Neurons to Neighborhoods, the Science of Early Childhood Development. And this is a quote from that work. And they concluded, our conclusion is unequivocal. What happens during the first months and years of life matters a lot, not because this period of development provides an indelible blueprint for adult well-being, but because it sets either a sturdy or fragile stage for what follows. So what I really want to highlight here is if things do not go well in the first few years of life, that does not mean that things can't go better as a human begins to develop completely different experiences. However, if you can set a really sturdy foundation, the obviously the obvious metaphor is a house. If you have a house that has a sturdy foundation, that house will be able to withstand the storms, the weather patterns much, much, much better than a house without a sturdy foundation that will get cracks and leaks and all those kinds of things. Um, the other metaphor that I started using more recently is if my goal is to be a healthy, well-functioning adult. And the metaphor for that, let's say I live in Phoenix. My goal is to get to Seattle. I can hop on a train that goes to Seattle, or I can hop on a train that goes, let's say, to Chicago. And if I hop on a train that goes to Chicago, I'm not going to get to Seattle unless I realize I'm on the wrong train. First of all, I got to realize I'm on the wrong path. Then I've got to figure out, okay, how do I get on the right path? I've got to wait until there's an appropriate stop where I can make a connection. I might have to backtrack. I might have to go out of my way, take some detours, get on a different train. I might have to make a couple different connections. And eventually I can still get to Seattle, but that path is going to be a lot more costly. It's going to take a lot more effort and energy, and it's going to take a lot longer to get there. So, with that said, we as infant mental health practitioners, our goal is to try to get on that right train as early as possible so we're not wasting our time, our money, or energy. A, going on the wrong path, and B, then making all the necessary adjustments to get back on the right path. We can still get to Seattle if we get on the wrong train. It's just going to take a lot more. Okay. I probably don't have to say tell this audience so much about neuroscience, and I'm certainly not going to pretend I know more neuroscience than a lot of folks here. But 85% of the brain is formed by age 3, 90% is formed by age 4, which I probably stated that thousands of times at this point in my career, and it still kind of blows my mind to this day, knowing how little what we've learned since age 4 comprises our brain. So then the question is, okay, what have we learned in those first few years to make up for that? Now, obviously, there's the brain stem. I mean, there's all kinds of parts of our brain that we're not actually learning, but we learn an incredible amount in those first few years. Again, I'm not going to get into the neuroscience with this group because you probably could give me lectures on it. But at birth, babies only have a small portion of the connections in their brain, and it's really throughout the months and years of early childhood where we develop trillions and trillions of connections. How do we base those connections? Well, based on the relationships that we have, based on the experiences that we have, based on how we're getting played with, how we're being talked to, how we're being communicated with, um, how our caregivers are responding to us or not responding to us. And we develop all these connections because the human brain doesn't know what it's going to need until later on. It doesn't know whether it's going to need to speak German or English. It doesn't know whether we're going to need to gather berries or develop spreadsheets. So it develops all these connections to prepare us for the whole range of possible needs that we're going to have. And then it's not until later childhood that a lot of those connections get pruned because we just don't need those connections, and it is not efficient to have all of those. So those connections get made and pruned based on the experiences that we have as young kids, none more important than our relationships with our primary caregivers. This slide is just a little visual depiction of how, again, incredibly important those first few months and years are across all kinds of areas of development. You can just take a peek at it and realize that the optimal window for just about everything is those first couple of years. And then the next best window is the next few years. And if we miss those windows, we can still develop a lot of skills. We can learn a language when we're older. It's just a whole lot. Anybody that's tried to learn a language as an adult can tell you how difficult it is. And anybody that is fluently bilingual or trilingual will almost inevitably tell you that they learned those languages when they were really little. It's just a lot easier. And the same can be true with respect to the language of relationships, which is, again, the bread and butter of infant mental health. So what is infant mental health? I've been talking about this for about 15 minutes now. What is infant mental health? Well, obviously, what infant mental health looks like in real life is something like this. Now, again, if this were a live audience, I'd hear everybody laughing. So I'm just going to trust that everybody thinks this is funny and nobody's taking this seriously. And everybody's like, that's ridiculous, because that's ridiculous. And yes, that was me about 18, 19 years ago. And my poor daughter who had to pose for this picture, who is now 20 and whole other story. Anyway. So this is not infant mental health. Infant mental health, there's a couple definitions that I like for infant mental health. I'll just kind of read off a couple to you. The state of emotional and social competence in young children who are developing appropriately within the interrelated context of biology, relationships, and culture. It's also been defined as the healthy social and emotional development of a child from birth to 3, and it's been expanded from up to birth to 5, in a growing field of research and practice devoted to the promotion of healthy social emotional development, prevention of mental health problems, and treatment of mental health problems in very young children. Treatment does not look like that, so that again is a joke. And then, of course, if she were able to talk as a good, Freudian patient would say, she would probably say something like this. It's really hard doing this virtually and not hearing people's actual reactions. This is so, thank you, Veronica. This is so different for me.
Wow, it's new. It's new. You're doing awesome. We're laughing. I promise.
I'm making fun of myself more than anything, so it's fine. So, and so far, any questions? Anybody holding on to any questions so far?
Nope.
No? Okay, no questions in the chat or anything. All right, cool. I'll keep going. So, both of those definitions really highlight the fact that babies exist and develop within the context of their most important relationships. And those most important relationships are with their primary caregivers. And those relationships really lay the foundation for how babies come to experience themselves and experience others. And we're going to talk about the importance of that, not only for babies and young children, but we're going to talk about how babies and young children take that and apply that to subsequent relationships for essentially a lifetime. So let me take a step back here. And essentially, the basic developmental tasks of children from birth to 5 really are these 3 things: experience and regulate emotions, form secure and close relationships, or close and secure relationships, and explore the environment and learn. So again, with a live audience, I would say, which of these 3 is attachment about? And most people would say, form close and secure relationships. And I would say, you're partially right. They're all related to attachment. And so let's take it one at a time. So the form close and secure relationships is obvious why that is related to attachment. But explore the environment and learn. When a kid's attachment needs are met, they feel safe and secure, and now they're able to explore their environment and learn. When a child's attachment needs are not met, they are not feeling safe and secure, and it is much, 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 much more difficult to explore the environment and learn. The example, again, that I use with the live audience, so pretend you're a live audience right now for me, because I need to come up with a virtual example for this, is I have a classroom full of people that I'm presenting to. And at a certain point, the fire alarm goes off. And you look out the window and you see flames. There's smoke billowing under the doors and through the cracks in the windows. And what do you all want to do? Right? You all want to get out of there, right? As fast as possible. And I got a little clicker and I lock all the doors and I lock all the windows. And I say, thank you for that facial reaction, Veronica. See, that's what I need. So I lock all the doors and all the windows, and I say, everybody, wait. I've got 4 more slides to get through. Let me get through these 4 slides, and then everybody can leave. And I force you to sit through the next 4 slides. Who's going to learn anything from what I teach in the next 4 slides? Right? You're not going to learn anything. Why not? Because you're not feeling safe, right? So it is really important for adults, and even more so for young children, to feel safe and secure in order to be able to explore their environment and learn. So exploring one's environment and learning is very much tied to their attachment relationship. Babies are not born knowing how to self-regulate. And there's no magical age at which kids just automatically learn how to self-regulate. I hear it so often. Well, they're 7 years old. They should be able to self-regulate. Why? kids learn to self-regulate through in the context of primary caregiving relationships where caregiver and child co-regulate, and it's through that process of co-regulation that a child then develops an increasing capacity to self-regulate. But that happens within the context of their attachment relationships as well. So basically all of the important developmental tasks of young children are intimately tied to their attachment relationships. Okay, the four major motivational systems of young kids from birth to 3: the attachment system, the exploration system, the fear awareness system, and the affiliative system. And they all work together. And this next slide that I'm going to show you is my best attempt at giving you a visual depiction of that. So the attachment system and the exploration system really work almost like a seesaw. When one's activated, the other's deactivated. And when the other gets activated, the first gets deactivated. So if my exploration system's activated, I feel safe and secure. I'm out, I'm baby, I'm toddler, I'm out exploring my environment, I'm learning. And as part of that, I'm going to be interested in socializing too. And I feel perfectly okay when I feel safe and secure starting to socialize with other, whether it be other kids, other adults, and everything is going fine. And then something happens that triggers my fear wariness system. It could be a loud noise. It could be a stranger approaching. It could be I'm climbing this structure and all of a sudden I realize I'm really high up. I didn't realize I was this high up. Or I realize, oh, I just ventured a little further away from my attachment figure than I thought. My fear awareness system is my trigger that this isn't safe right now. Well, what that does is that activates the attachment system. And when my attachment system gets activated, my exploration system gets deactivated. And now, as baby, as toddler, as young child, what do? I make a beeline back to my attachment figure. And that attachment figure, when things are going well in that relationship, helps me feel safe and secure. It might mean I need a couple minutes of cuddling and then I'm good. It might mean I just need to look and I see you, you see me, I'm good. That's all it might be. But I need to get that sense of safety and security from my attachment figure. When I do and I feel safe and secure again, my attachment system becomes deactivated and my exploration system becomes activated again. And if you ever hang out at playgrounds or parks, you can see this happening dozens and dozens of times within a short amount of time. You can see kids venturing out, exploring and playing, coming back in, getting their attachment need met, feeling safe and secure, venturing back out, coming back in. You'll see it all the time. Questions about that? Nobody? Okay. This is a little cartoon depiction of that, of what I just said. You've got a little one with depleted power cells. And there's the recharger. And there's the recharging. And now anybody either with young kids or who remember the stage of their life when they had young kids, remember the full charge indicator wiggle? It's like, I'm good, time to get down, and boom, now here I am with fully charged cells capable of anything, going off and exploring the world and tackling the world. And that's how attachment relationships for young children work when things are going well. Now, a couple of things I need to clear up because social media, pop psych, and even a lot of mental health practitioners that purport to know things about attachment get this wrong quite often. They talk about attachment styles. What's your attachment style? This is my attachment style, so on and so forth. While there is some merit to that for adults, kids do not have something called an attachment style. Attachment is a relationship construct. It is relationship specific. A kid can have one kind of an attachment with one parent, a different kind of attachment with another parent, a third kind of attachment with grandma, a fourth kind of attachment with childcare provider. What's their attachment style? Well, they don't have one because attachment is not an individual characteristic, it's a relationship construct. So when we're talking about kids, it is really important to remember that. And attachments activated under stress, we talked about that. And we like to think that it's a protective factor, but depending on the quality of that relationship, it can also be a risk factor. All right. Another little cartoon for you. Here you have mom and dad sitting on the bed. Mom says bet. Dad says how much? Mom says $5. Dad says okay. Mom's reaching towards the phone. She's like, all right, you ready? Here we go. Mom picks up the phone, and in come two screaming little kids, Mom, Mom, Mom. And Dad says, uncanny. Mom's like, yep, pay up. So now I'm going to ask at least one, if not more of you, to unmute yourself and tell me, first of all, just by I can only see two of you on my screen, unfortunately. I wish I could see all of, oh, let me do this. I'm gonna try to do what Ursula taught me. I'm going to stop my screen share.
Lorenzo, you
Now I
can
can see
also
all
do
of
the
you.
scroll.
What's that? Oh, okay. Well, now I can see everybody. Awesome. So how many of you have seen that cartoon play out in real life with little ones? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 4.5. Why? Why is that true? Why does that happen? When mom picks up the phone, why do the kids who were perfectly fine 4 seconds ago all of a sudden have this strong need to connect?
FOMO.
Okay. Say more about what you mean by that.
Fear of missing out. They always want to be included. They want to be involved in everything that's going on. And when you're out of sight, they're at that age, they need to see you to know that you're there. They don't understand the concept that you're not there when you're not in the room. So they,
Although 6 seconds before she picked up the phone, she wasn't even talking. 6 seconds before she picked up the phone, the kids were fine. Right?
But is the phone the new concept that creates the FOMO?
What does the phone represent? What does mom be picking up the phone represent to a young child?
She's busy, unavailable.
somebody
Unavailable.
else is more important.
Well, so if I need you, 4 seconds ago, if I needed you, I knew I could come in, you're good. But when you pick up the phone, and you could see how old of a cartoon that was, because it was like one of those, had a cord attached to it and everything. Um, um, but when mom picks up the phone, she's not available to me. What does mom not being available do? Activates my attachment system, right? Now, all of a sudden, if mom's not available to me, that activates my attachment system. And now I need to reconnect to make sure that if I need her, she can be available to me. All right, now let's see if I can do this again. I'll share screen. Back to this. Share. All right, we got it. All right, why can't I? There's my buttons. Okay. So
Hey,
I
Brenda,
yes,
I made a funny in the chat. I'm just going to bring it out because you like the interaction.
yes, thank you.
This is even far more true when a mom goes to the bathroom.
Yes. Yes, I went through, I don't know, a full year of my life where I could literally not go to the bathroom without toes and fingers sliding under the door. You see my fingers? Do you see my toes? Do you see my yes, honey, I see your toes. Yep. Oh, now I don't see. Oh, now I see them again. And that was how I went to the bathroom for a year of my life. Maybe that's TMI, I don't know, but Becca brought it up, so
But it is,
absolutely.
and I think I don't know that I went to the bathroom for my kids' first 6 years of life with the door closed because it was just much easier to have the door open, and they didn't tend to get terrified if the door was open. They would go about their business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but that's I mean it's a you said it as a joke, but it's a great point. So it's any experience in which the young child perceives that my person is unavailable to me. It could be they're having an important conversation with somebody that's at the house, a visitor. Now all of a sudden their needs go way up, right? Before there was a knock on the door, they were playing by themselves, they were fine cooking dinner, whatever it is. When their perception is my caregiver is unavailable to me, boom, that activates their attachment system. Exploration system's deactivated, attachment system gets activated. Absolutely. All right. Thank you. So I mentioned that there were different qualities of attachment relationship. So there's two major categories and then a few subcategories. I won't go into excruciating detail, but I'll go into a little bit of detail. So we have our secure attachment and we have our categories, subcategories, excuse me, of insecure attachment. Secure attachment is the good stuff that we are talking about when things go well. A secure attachment develops when the parent or caregiver is available, consistent, and reliable, and a child is able to utilize that caregiver to meet their various attachment needs, including safety and security when they need that, and also including just a secure base from which to go off and explore their environment when they need that. There's also three different categories of insecure attachment, and we'll talk a little bit, not into too much depth about those. So, when I was doing this presentation 10 years ago, this slide was different. This slide said approximately 60 to 70% of kids had primary secure attachments with a primary attachment figure. And research was really consistent. Every research on attachment found it was somewhere between 60 and 70%. Not anymore. We're now finding that the percentage of kids with primarily secure attachments to a primary caregiver is down to 50 to 60%. Yes, I echo that face, Ursula. And we don't have hard facts as to why, but I have a very, very, very firm belief as to why, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But again, when I as baby have a secure attachment to my caregiver, I can utilize my caregiver for comfort when I'm upset, stressed, afraid, and I can use them for a secure base for exploration when I'm not distressed. When I have an insecure avoidant attachment to my caregiver, I avoid physical closeness and interaction with my caregiver during instances that would typically activate attachment behavior. Now, how do I, the researcher or the attachment expert, how am I going to sit here and conclude that this kid's attachment system is activated or that this kid's stressed when they're showing behaviorally, I'm good, I'm fine, because that's what these kids are showing? Well, we all know what is one of the primary stress hormones. Cortisol. How do we measure cortisol? Very easy, just a quick little saliva swab, right? So what I say I'm using the term we loosely, it wasn't me. What attachment researchers did is they took a saliva swab of kids, put them through a procedure called the strange situation, where there was a series of separations and reunions where they would ask the primary caregiver to leave the room for short amounts of time, which activates stress. As we said, when the caregiver is unavailable, that's stressful and that activates the attachment system. And they found that kids with secure attachments, their cortisol level went up, right? Caregiver comes back in the room. What does the kid with a secure attachment do? Kid with a secure attachment goes towards their caregiver. They reconnect. It might take seconds. It might take a little bit longer. Every child is different. Saliva swab. What happened to the cortisol level? It went back down, right? Feel better. I'm not stressed anymore. Well, with kids that have an avoidant attachment, caregiver leaves the room, kid looks fine. Caregiver comes back in the room, kid's like, oh, I didn't even notice you were gone. Did you go somewhere? Like, I mean, really nonchalant, right? Um, where's that kid's cortisol level when the caregiver left the room? High. Where's that kid's cortisol level after caregivers return to the room? Still high. They finish the procedure. They're leaving the clinic. Oh, let me just take one last saliva swab. Where's that kid's cortisol level? Still high. So just because behaviorally they're not showing it, kids that have an avoidant attachment remain stressed. That avoidance could be subtle. It could just be looking away. It could be more obvious, turning away or walking away. But it's a clear indication, I don't need you. Well, why? Why would a kid do that? That's ridiculous. They do need them. We know this. Well, they do this because that particular caregiver has either consistently ignored their negative emotions, failed to respond, or responded in some way that communicated to the child, this, I'm uncomfortable with this, and that discomfort is probably going to push me away even further. And so as kid, that feels even worse. I need to keep you at least somewhat close. Because if I push away even worse or I feel rejected, that feels worse. So I'm going to hide that. I'm going to pretend everything's cool and I'm good, even though I'm not. I see a couple of sad faces. Any questions or thoughts? No, just sad faces. Just sad faces. Okay. Um, Insecure resistant. I'm just checking the time here. I'm gonna go a little faster through this just for the sake of time. Um, a kid with an insecure resistant attachment is going to show extreme distress upon the stressor, upon the caregiver leaving the room, and they're going to be really resistant to efforts to be soothed. They might demonstrate angry behaviors. They're still stressed. Their cortisol level is still high. They're going to demonstrate angry behaviors towards the caregiver, might push away or hit the caregiver, but essentially the bottom line is I'm going to resist bits to be soothed. Why do I do this? To keep you so that we can stay close. Because what I've learned through our relational history and experience is it feels better to you and to me when we stay really close. It might be because a parent is really, really super anxious, very overprotective, interfering, inconsistent. So I'm going to do what I need to do to keep us really close, and that's going to be to continue to cry, scream, and show you I need to stay close. Not surprisingly, kids with primarily resistant attachments have higher levels of conflict with others and struggle solving problems when frustrated. The both of those I saw you guys make, or a couple of you, I can only see a couple of you made sad faces, but that wasn't the bad news. Those were still organized strategies. And like I said, today, probably 40 to 50% of us have some form of an insecure attachment. So either avoidant or um, or resistant. And we know we can see this in adults, right? So with adults, we see people when they're struggling, they're having a hard time, they tend to just kind of isolate or not see closeness to the person that's closest to them. And at the same time, we see other people that are super, super clingy. So we see manifestations of this in adults. But those are still, like I said, organized strategy. I have a way of getting through this. It's suboptimal. It's far from perfect, but I can at least manage. And those folks, they can do okay. They can function okay in the world. They're going to have relationship struggles here and there, but they can function. The disorganized category is a different story altogether. these kids have no consistent strategies for obtaining anything they need from their caregiver. Their behavior is going to appear confused or contradictory. They might show fear of the caregiver or direct attachment behaviors towards total strangers. Um, and so the question is why? And the answer is pretty simple, and it's going to lead to more sad faces. The answer is because the same person that helps me feel better and comforts me sometimes is also my source of fear. That puts me as child in a huge bind, in a huge conundrum. The same person that I'm the most fearful of is also the same person that sometimes can comfort me and help me feel better. Um, and now as child, I'm in this real conundrum of a bind. This disorganized attachment is the pattern that by far leads to the worst outcomes, the worst mental health issues throughout life, substance abuse, incarceration, you name it. There's a very strong link between all of those really, really poor outcomes and disorganized attachments. Let me see if I have time for this. How much time do we have? I will. I'll show this little video clip. This video clip, I was going to show it earlier, but I wasn't sure how it would do on time, so I just moved it later so that I could have a better idea of where I am on time. So it might be slightly out of place, but oh, we'll see if can somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear it because it needs audio. If not, then we'll see.
No audio.
No audio. Okay. Okay. Well,
Go back and press the audio button next to the press replay. Hit
okay.
the mute button on the side.
Oh, okay. I see it. I see it. Whoop. I got the volume's up.
All right.
No.
Skip.
Okay. It's a I'll tell you what it is. It's an illustration of a procedure called the still face paradigm. And it's a mom and a baby. Baby is about 12 months of age in a car seat. Mom's interacting with her face to face and playing and doing all the things that, mom and babies do. And then the researcher instructs mom to completely still her face, like blank expression. And you watch, it's for 2 minutes, and you watch how the baby reacts. At first, the baby's trying to get mom back, doing all the things that baby was doing when she was engaging mom. And then baby starts getting quite distressed and screams and cries and loses control of her posture in just those 2 minutes. And then mom comes back. And then within about 5 to 10 seconds, mom and baby are doing their thing again, and baby's recovered. And that's normal stuff because no caregiver can be 24/7 completely responsive and attuned to baby's needs. So those ruptures happen. And when things are going well, those ruptures happen, and then there's an opportunity for repair. And what Dr. Tronick here says is that it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is the good stuff we do with our babies all the time. The bad is when we have those ruptures, but after all, there's an opportunity to repair. The ugly is when there is no opportunity to repair, and babies are stuck in that bad without that opportunity. And that speaks to some of the more insecure attachments that we just talked about. Okay, I kind of previewed this a little bit about why this is so incredibly important, not just in early childhood, but throughout the lifespan. So we all do this. Babies also do it. We develop these internal working models or these internal mental representations, which are basically maps or templates of important relationships resulting from their experiences in those first early primary caregiving relationships. So based on how those first relationships go, babies develop these representational maps or templates for relationships. And that influences what they come to expect out of relationships. But not only that, it impacts how they come to think and feel about themselves. Am I good? Am I lovable? Am I charming? Am I worth you being with me and being connected with me? Or am I a burden? Am I unlovable? Am I not somebody of value? More subtly, are certain emotions okay for me to have and share, and others not okay for me to have or share? Are there certain things that you feel comfortable with? Are there certain needs that I have that you're comfortable with and you can meet those needs? And are there other needs that make you uncomfortable? So I need to hide those needs. And we develop from a very, very, very early age these internal working models for all of that that last throughout adulthood. Um, the way I talk about it is, I mentioned language development earlier. So if you grew up monolingual English speaking, and I came in and said, I'm going to teach you German. And you don't know a lick of German, but I'm going to teach you German. And once a week, you're going to come to my 1 hour class and I'm going to teach you German. At the end of a semester, are you going to know a little bit of German? Probably. Are you going to be fluent in German? Not even close, right? Um, so you're going to still be monolingual English speaking, knowing a little bit of German. Your relational language is going to be the security or insecurity variant that you grew up with. Is that for life? Not necessarily. If I send you on a plane and you now live in Germany and you are immersed in Germany, in the German culture, after a certain number of months and or years, are you going to become more and more fluent in German? Yes. Are you going to become more and more comfortable engaging with people in German? Yes. Are you going to forget English? Probably not. Are you going to forget your early relational language? Probably not. But if you can get immersed in, let's say your primary relational or your primary attachment was avoidant growing up, and that's your relational language, it's going to be really hard for you to have any other kind of relationship other than one in which, when I have an emotional need, I feel comfortable sharing that with you with the expectation that you're going to be available, for me and meet my needs. But if I'm immersed in those relationships with somebody that is, nope, I'm sticking with you, I'm sticking with you, you have the ability to learn that relational language. But it is really important to understand that these attachment relationships aren't just about childhood. They're about how we learn about ourselves and relationships for a lifetime. Thoughts, questions? Okay. So we have at this point a good 50 plus years of research that that's demonstrated that children who are more securely attached have all kinds of amazing outcomes. They enjoy more happiness with their parents. They're more successful in school. Why are they more successful? Why? Just because they have a secure attachment, are they more successful in school? Anybody? You can unmute yourself.
Because they know how to interact differently.
They know how to interact differently. And what are a few things that enables them to be able to do?
Well, I don't think there's a fire happening.
Okay, so A, there's not a fire going on, so I feel safe and secure enough to learn. Absolutely.
Sorry, Ursula, go ahead.
I was just thinking they can play and approach challenges differently.
Absolutely. And I'll show you that in the next slide. So hold on to that because that's absolutely in the next slide. But what they've learned is when I have a need, an adult can help me with that need. if I've learned when I have a need, adults are not responsive or consistent, I'm much less likely to ask my teacher to meet my need. I'm much less likely to raise my hand or ask a question if I'm confused or stuck. Um, so kids with secure attachments are much more successful in school. They get along better with friends and have stronger friendships. They're better able to problem solve with friends. They have higher self-esteems. They know, and this goes to what Ursula said earlier, they know that most problems have an answer. They trust that good things come their way. They trust the people they love. They know how to be kind to those around them. And kind of the flip side, decreased psychopathology throughout the lifespan, decreased substance abuse, decreased incarcerations. And I should have put this and I forgot to put it in my slide. And again, you guys are the experts in this. When I have all these outcomes, what else is going to be decreased? Probably a lot of medical complications, right? The whole mind-body connection that you guys are more experts on than I am. So the benefits of having a secure attachment in early childhood is beyond, it's the number one protective factor a human can have in their lifetime. By far, there's not even a close second. There are other ones, but that is the number one biggest protective factor you can have. So, what's the problem? And why has our rate of security decreased over time? Well, here's my answer. In probably the 60s, it started in the late 50s, 60s, 70s, we had a boom in American psychology of behaviorism. And I have nothing against behaviorism. They didn't get things wrong, but where they got things wrong is that behavioral principles got translated into behavior management approaches to parenting. And we now have at least two generations of Americans who were raised believing that to be a good parent, we need to ignore tantrums. How many of you, I want to see faces, so stop share. How many of you have heard a professional, whether it be a pediatrician, a mental health professional, or gotten advice from trusted others that said, when your toddler's having a tantrum, ignore them. That's the best thing you can do, is ignore it, right? Time out. How many people have heard when your child is quote unquote misbehaving, put them in timeout? Right? This all comes from, now let's see if I can do this again, share it. This all comes from this behavior management approach to parenting that's based on behaviorism. And we got taught this by the mental health professionals. Pediatricians got taught this, mental health professionals got taught this, and therefore parents got taught this. So well-intentioned, loving parents that wanted to do the best possible job they could, that trusted the people they should trust, the pediatricians, the mental health professionals, to give them guidance, got really bad advice. And in 2026, I work with a lot of parents whose kids are in DCS custody, and they get referred to parenting classes all the time. And I ask them what they're learning, and they're learning timeout. They're learning put the kid in the room and close the door. They're learning ignore tantrums and the negative emotions. And Veronica said before we got started that there's been a few presenters that have dropped a few F-bombs. This is where I'm using a lot of self-restraint here and not dropping any F-bombs. But it really makes me crazy when I hear that in 2026, parents are still hearing this really, really terrible advice from professionals in the community. And then, of course, we all have our personal histories of being children and being parented by parents that also did the best they could with what they knew, what they had. But none of those were ever perfect. So we have our own histories of that. Um, so I'm going to die on the hill, and you can't convince me that the main reason why the rate of security has dropped in the last few decades is because of this insane behavior management approach that we're still utilizing, and that loving, well-intentioned parents are utilizing because that's what they're hearing from trusted others. So, what's the solution? Good research-based parent education for expecting and new parents. Parent education that's not cookie cutter. Do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. If anybody, I tell parents all the time, if anybody tries to hand you a manual, if you do this, don't do this, don't do this, and that's going to work, they're selling you snake oil. Every child is different. They have different needs. Every parent is different. Their desires, their parenting values are going to be different, and that's okay. Their histories are different, so they're going to be more and less comfortable with different needs and usually outside of their own awareness. So I wish it were as easy as, a dash of this, a cup of this, a tablespoon of that, stick them in the oven at 350 degrees for 18 years, and then take them out after 18 years and you have healthy, well-functioning young adults. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. But what parents really need is a roadmap to security. Um, and this includes a way better understanding of the various attachment needs that young kids have, how to effectively, or different ways of effectively meeting those needs, and an understanding of which of those needs make them less comfortable and how to become aware of that discomfort. So now they have a choice to choose security rather than just to respond to their discomfort. There was something else I was going to say here, and I'm forgetting. Maybe it wasn't important. I remember what it was. So I've been doing this, as you can tell from the blonde highlights in my beard. I've been doing this for a long time, 25 years. And most of the field of infant mental health really works with what is largely considered the high-risk population, child welfare, DCS population, because as you all know, in this society, we don't invest in prevention. We wait until we have big problems and then we try to solve those problems. We are halfway to Chicago before saying, no, we're trying to get to Seattle, so we need to figure out how to navigate, switching trains and so on and so forth. So we don't invest in how to get on the right train. So for 25 years, I've been working with the child welfare population and the high risk population, and they need it really, 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 really badly. And I'm very proud to say that I've been working within that population. But it occurred to me about a year and a half, 2 years ago, that is such a small slice of the population, and the rest of us are only have access to what's on social media, the good, the bad, and the ugly, what friends and families tell us that some might be right, a lot are probably wrong, the way we were parented. So as a result, I've put together this 6-hour parenting class and it's geared towards expecting parents that are still pregnant, and or new parents with infants or toddlers before things start going awry. And it's really designed to give parents that roadmap to security, to help parents identify those various needs, how, different ways of effectively meeting those needs, how to identify those areas in which they struggle, to help alleviate all that new parent anxiety. There's no such thing as perfect parenting. And I say all the time, if there was such a thing as perfect parenting, it'd be far from perfect because kids would never have the opportunity to develop any resilience. And Lord knows they're going to need it in this world. So it's okay to have those ruptures, just as long as they're followed by those repairs. And to really give parents confidence that they really are all their child needs, and they have everything within them that it takes that their child needs. So I developed a 6-hour class. But again, the struggle is in our society, prevention, getting ahead of things isn't really what we do a lot of. With that, I will open it up to any questions anybody's been holding on to. And let me stop sharing my screen. And who's got questions?
Great job for your first virtual presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for being my secure base that I was able to use to explore my environment from.
I'm going to turn off the record now, just for
Okay.
everybody.